Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. Now, over the past several days, we have confirmed that the Ukrainian military has taken delivery of an estimated 18 Leopard 2 main battle tanks and 14 British Challenger 2 main battle tanks. Now, from a qualitative viewpoint, I would have to say that in all probability, the Challenger 2s that have been delivered to the Ukrainians and the training that the Ukrainian tank troops have received from their time in the United Kingdom, England, probably gives the Challenger 2, at least in the Ukrainian service, the upper hand, again, in terms of quality, tank versus tank, meaning Challenger 2 versus the Leopard 2. Now, the Leopard 2 isn't far off. It's a lighter tank. It does not have as good as armor protection as the Challenger 2 main battle tank. The Challenger 2 is a much heavier main battle tank, 70 plus tons. The main guns are a little bit different. Same size, 120 millimeter. The British tank is a rifled gun. The German is a 120 millimeter Rheinmetall smoothbore gun. Now, we have an idea where the Ukrainians have deployed the Challenger 2 main battle tank. And it goes contrary to where I would have believed the Ukrainians would have deployed these systems. Furthermore, the Ukrainians are not deploying all 14 tanks as a company-sized unit together. They're breaking this 14-tank company up and creating two smaller companies or reinforced platoons, essentially. So one Ukrainian unit is getting 7 tanks, and another Ukrainian unit is getting an additional 7 Challengers as well. So we're not going to see a composite Ukrainian brigade made up of Western equipment. Now, I don't know how effective that's going to be. I don't know why the Ukrainians are doing that. It's difficult to say. I would have believed that the Ukrainians would have deployed the Challenger 2, maybe even the Leopard 2s, in areas where they could use the more advanced optics and the longer range that especially the Challenger 2 provide. I believe at this point in all of tank warfare history, the Challenger 2 has the longest range tank-to-tank kill of any tank in history right now. Now, obviously, you have to look at the gunners, you have to look at the quality of crews as well, and British tank crews are very, very good. Now, will those Ukrainian tank crews be on par with British tank crews? Difficult to say at this point. I would imagine the Ukrainians have had sent some of their best tankers to the UK to get trained by the Brits. But again, we don't know that. We don't know that for certain. But we do know now, what unit the Ukrainians have sent those Challenger 2 tanks to. But again, I would have figured that the Ukrainians would have deployed them in areas maybe south of Zaporizhia, quite possibly taking shots against Russian targets on the western bank of the Dnieper River. Again, here in the south, you have vast open fields with not as much foliage and woods that you would get further to the north, up near in the eastern Donbass, and other areas to the north, east of Kramatorsk, where we know now that it is reported that those Ukrainian Challenger 2 tanks are now active. Now, what units did the Ukrainians send these tanks to? Now, you would think, well, the Ukrainians probably would send those tanks to an armored unit, to an actual tank brigade. Maybe they would send it to a mechanized brigade. But reportedly, the Ukrainians have sent the Challenger 2 main battle tanks to air mobile units. So we know that, or we have reports that the 25th Air Mobile Brigade, which is operating just west of Kreminna, in this area here, has received 7 Challenger 2 main battle tanks. Now, are they in service and active against Russian forces at this time? Difficult to say. What other unit possibly received the Challenger 2? Well, we've heard that it's either the 81st Air Mobile Brigade or quite possibly, which I seriously doubt, but we can't rule it out, that the 80th Air Assault Brigade also received Challenger 2 main battle tanks. Now, this could be a deception ploy by the Ukrainians, reporting that these tanks are going to these air assault units and deployed in areas near Bakhmut and deployed near areas west of Kreminna. Now, I believe if the Ukrainians did deploy these Challenger 2s west of Kreminna in areas in the area of operations just to the north of Seversk, where we think the Russians could be preparing a fairly large operation. We know that there are elements of the Russian 1st Guards Tank Army deployed in this area. We also know that the 90th Tank Division is also deployed in this area as well. So difficult to say, but again, this is where initially that we are receiving reports that these Challenger 2s are now active. They're not in armored brigades, not in mechanized brigades, but again, air mobile brigades. And the Ukrainian air mobile forces are deployed and are made up of forces that have tanks. There are Ukrainian air mobile brigades, airborne brigades that have attached tank battalions, just like the Russian VDV or the Russian airborne forces have tanks, just not air-droppable armored infantry fighting vehicles, BMDs, BMD 1, 2s, and 3s. But the Russians have also deployed actual main battle tanks, T-72 Bravo 3s, in those air mobile formations. So again, early reports indicate that the Challenger 2s are operating in this area. Again, kind of strange, given the forested nature of this area. You would think that the Ukrainians would deploy these tanks near areas where, or in areas where, again, they would have the opportunity to take very long-distance shots. And that's probably not the case in these areas west and near Kreminna. Forested areas where your engagement ranges are going to be much, much closer. Now, again, this could be a deception operation by the Ukrainians, and in all probability, the Challengers could be down here in the south. Or they may not even have crossed the Dnieper River yet and are still located in western Ukraine. But early indications are that's where these Challenger 2s are heading. Again, area near Kreminna with the air mobile forces of the Ukrainian military. We're going to continue to watch this very, very closely. Obviously, we're waiting for any reports of engagements between these Western tanks and their Russian counterparts. Again, highly likely, though, that the first Ukrainian engagements where you see possible Ukrainian Western tanks either destroyed or damaged are going to be destroyed or damaged by anti-tank guided weapon systems or artillery. So again, very interesting if it's in fact true that the Ukrainians have deployed those tanks in this area. Again, doesn't make a lot of sense, but be that as it may, that is what is being said right now. So we'll have more very, very soon. Thank you for joining us today. And as always, have a good day.